Hello everyone, I'm Olga Maslovskaya and I'm an assistant professor in social statistics and demography at the University of Southampton. Today I'm going to talk about evaluating data quality in the UK probability-based online panel. And this is a joint work with Curtis Jessup from Nuts and Social Research and Gabi Darrant from the University of Southampton. So the main name of the project, which details of the project are available on this slide. The title was The Future of Online Surveys, Evaluating the Data Quality in the UK Probability-Based Online Panel. So the main aim for this was to evaluate the data quality from the first UK online probability-based panel, NatSan Online Probability-Based Panel. So the main motivation for the project was, as we all know, that the response rates are declining in social surveys. Also, the costs for face-to-face surveys are increasing. We also know that the use of internet is rising in the UK specifically, and of course in the other countries in the world. And to respond to these trends, NatSan created NatSan probability-based online panel, and it allowed cost savings and shorter fieldwork periods. What we also observe in response to those trends, which I mentioned just now, we can see that there is an increase in non-probability opt-in online panels as well. They're generally widely used for market research and opinion polling, and also used for social and policy-focused research. The costs for them are much lower in comparison to probability-based surveys. And also, one of their main benefits is that the data can be collected within a very short period of time. The issues are they rely on quotas or self-selection, and we need to bear this in mind when we report any results from those surveys. So, not much is known about data quality and probability-based online panels specifically in the UK, and that was the main motivation why we thought it would be important to do this project. So we have some evidence from other country contexts. For example, US and Canadian colleagues produced interesting analysis there. Darren Pennine and colleagues looked at the Australian context. There are very interesting papers in special issue on probability-based and non-probability survey research, which was very recently published in Journal for Survey Statistics and Methodology. So please have a look at this special issue. And there is very interesting paper by Karina Karnesa and colleagues. It reviews conceptual approaches and empirical evidence. So the data we used for our analysis, I already mentioned. Face-to-face probability-based study, British Social Attitude Survey, BSA, and also NatSan Online Probability-Based Panel, which is recruited from BSA respondents. And also we collected data in two non-probability online panels, Populous, YouGov, and PanelBase. Here I mentioned the name of the companies. However, for the analysis, when I present the results, I will not be mentioning the names of the companies for obvious reason. So what is important to mention here, for all analysis, weights are used. For analysis, we're using weights. So data collection, we collected comparable variables across the 5 surveys. So when we were selecting the questions, we were trying to select questions with different types of response options available to respondents for comparison between surveys, but also within type of questions. And we're hoping to conduct this work a little bit later, so it's not presented here. So we were able to collect 8 socio-demographic questions. So you can see them here. Also, of course, we had access to gender and age, but we were not using it for the analysis because they were used for quotas in non-probability based online panels. Also, our main interest was these 5 substantive questions where we were trying to have various response options, as I already mentioned. So one was about attitudes towards current NHS, how it is run nowadays. Another one about attitudes towards unmarried couples who live together. Then there was another question if people disagree or agree with the statement that it is very dangerous for them to cycle on the roads. And another one was if the respondent is driving a car. It was yes/no question. And the final one was the question where the respondents were able to select multiple categories. So the question was, in the last 12 months, which of any of the following things have you done? And there were various options there. So also we collected political attitudes questions, but they were not analyzed yet for this specific for this specific work. But we'll do this a little bit later. So analysis plan. So for this specific part of the work, we compared survey estimates from NUTS and probability-based online panel to face-to-face probability survey, BSA, and BSA was used as a benchmark, and also 3 non-probability-based online panels. So then we studied bivariate associations between substantive variables and demographic characteristics. But this work is a work in progress. We just wanted you to show our very preliminary results there. So for the first part of the analysis, we produced various measures to compare the estimates, absolute differences, mean of absolute differences, delta dissimilarity index, relative differences, and mean of relative differences, as the results are pretty consistent across different measures. And because we don't have that much time, here I'm going to focus only on mean of absolute differences. And then, as I mentioned, we looked at bivariate associations, we conducted bivariate analysis of substantive variables by demographic characteristics, which is a preliminary work, but I'll show you our preliminary results here. So the first one, mean of absolute differences. What we see here we can see the differences, mean of absolute differences between BSA and other probability-based and non-probability-based online panel estimates. So we can see that our main focus was on NUTSEN and data quality in NUTSEN. So we can see here that the results are not very consistent. So for 3 variables, NHS, cycling, visiting places, the mean of absolute differences between BSA and NUTSEN is the smallest. However, it's not the smallest for marriage and for driving. And we can see that there are wide range of differences are observed in this mean of absolute differences between BSA and estimates from non-probability based online panels. So here we have the same results, but for demographic variables. And we can see that when we look at age, household size, at ethnicity, economic activity, and household income, the mean of absolute differences between BSA and NUTSEN is the smallest when compared to non-probability based online panels. However, we noticed that when we look at marital status and specifically at highest qualification, this is not the case anymore. And this difference, mean of absolute differences between BSA and NUTSEN for highest qualification is quite large and larger than for the non-probability based panel 1 and 2. We need to look into this because this finding is quite surprising for us because we were using weighted data and we didn't expect to see this difference. However, it's quite interesting, so we will do a little bit more work to understand what is going on here. So I promised that I will show our bivariate associations. So what we did here, we looked at the bivariate associations between our substantive questions and our demographic characteristics. So we used chi-square tests because all our data are categorical. Of course, it would be easier if the data would be continuous, then we would be able to look at the direction of effects as well. Here, we can see only p-values and associated significance in the table. We know that we need to do more, so I'm probably thinking about maybe looking specifically at adjusted residuals in order to be able to get more feel what is actually going on. But from this table, we can clearly see that BSA and NUTSEN panel, from the point of view of bivariate associations, the results are quite similar. However, the difference between BSA and non-probability based panel 1 is very, very big. So in non-probability based panel 1, out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 variables, which we used for this analysis, only in 1 we did find significant association between NHS question and household income. All other associations were not found to be significant. We also found 1 non-significant association in the second non-probability based panel and in the third 4 of them. So here, remaining questions, marriage, cycling and driving. For driving, we need to remember that the answer categories available to the respondents are yes and no. And we didn't find any differences between BSA and non-probability based online panels. For marriage, we found 2 differences, one in, well, for 10-year variable and for household income, and one was present in one of the of the non-probability based online panel. For cycling, the situation was slightly worse. So for cycling marital status, we observed differences in 2 non-probability based online panels, and for tenure, also we observed 2 differences between BSA and 2 non-probability based online panels. So we found issues with ethnicity variable, low self-count, so the results were not presented here. Therefore, we had only 7 demographic characteristics and not 8, but we will need to look at it and in order to be able to add this to our results as well. So just to conclude, I know that we don't have much time left. Conclusions. Unfortunately, it's hard to draw any firm conclusions from the analysis. Probability-based online panel NATSAN performs better than non-probability-based online panels with some exceptions. So when we look at estimates, NATSAN panel is among the closer estimates, and also in Bivariate association, NATSAN behaves in a very similar way to BSA. When we looked at the estimates, we found issues with highest qualification and marital status variable on NATSAN panel, and we need to look into this in more detail. So of course, our main focus was on NATSAN panel. However, as we had access to non-probability based online panels, we thought it was very, very important to look at the results as well. So the results for those non-probability based online panels are less consistent, unfortunately. So we observed differences across non-probability based online panels, which suggests that the results for the panels should be treated with caution. We knew that already, but this provides further evidence to this. On some variables, estimates are closer to BSA, but on others may be substantially further away. And when we looked into bivariate analysis context, all issues were with non-probability based online panels. So we know that our work has lots of limitations. However, we still believe it's very important to present our findings because nothing was done in the UK context so far. So I would like to mention all the limitations. So of course, number of variables available for comparison. So as I mentioned, we have information about political attitudes and we'll do more work. So hopefully we'll have more variables, and yeah, but still more variables would be better for the analysis. Also, assumption that face-to-face survey is a good benchmark is a strong assumption, and we need to remember this. When we were designing the project, we were hoping to be able to get access to administrative data. However, it was very difficult to do. What we need to remember, that presentation of questions is not also always identical, and panel providers use all their own templates, and some not have the functionality, such as, for example, do not know options, etc. Not all surveys collected at exactly the same time, although the timing was similar. Not all surveys have the same sample size, however close. They were close, with the exception to BSA. And also there were different survey designs. And for example, NATSAN panel has CATI interviews to get offline participants, but not non-probability based online panels didn't have this. And BSA is a face-to-face survey. So we expect to see more differences there as well. In principle, we all know that statistical tests and bivariate association tests should not be conducted on non-probability based surveys. And this is what we teach our students. However, we know that unfortunately this is done very, very often. Therefore, we thought it was very, very important to conduct this analysis. But we need, as I mentioned already, more work should be done on bivariate associations. We need to go beyond significance because this is not very sufficient yet. So what we're planning to do next, we're planning potentially we'll do modeling of absolute differences to assess potential differences by question types and other characteristics. And also we're planning to do regression multivariate analysis and comparison of point estimates and significance of coefficients. So we're not going to just stop at the bivariate associations there as well. Those are the references I mentioned. Yes, I think this is all I wanted to say today. Thank you very much. And I'm very much looking forward to your questions and comments. Thank you very, very much.